Hello again. What you're looking at here is the legendary supercar Saleen S7. The main things that come to my mind about this car are nostalgia, a dream, and very underrated. Why do I say underrated? Because when it comes to modern supercars today, or even from 20 years back, most car heads often chatter about supercar brands of Ferrari, Lamborghini, McLaren, Pagani, and all that stuff. But when it comes to brand manufacturers like Saleen and the Saleen S7, hardly anyone brings up about it, and the car deserves more attention than you think it should. If you are not familiar with Saleen Automotive is an American car company that tunes and builds special high-performance cars and trucks. Saleen is a Ford tuning-based company that heavily modifies versions of mass-produced Ford vehicles, such as the Saleen-based Mustang, the F-150 sport truck, etc. Steve Saleen, who was the founder of Saleen, began his automotive career as an expert back in the mid-1980s. He is most famous for tuning Mustangs and took the 80s, 90s, and 2000s legendary Mustang and showed Ford how he could make them better, and did just that. And the automotive world has been better for it. Legends like the S281, S351, SR, and S302, all of which were modified Mustangs, are special in their own ways. While making a pony car even better generation after generation with Ford, at some point at the end of the 90s, Steve Saleen decided that he had enough consulting with Ford and wanted to try building his very own car using the knowledge he had acquired over his years with Ford. The American tuner didn't want to make a car just to compete in the muscle or sports car field. Saleen instead dared to build an American mid-engined supercar to take on the likes of both Lamborghini Diablo, Jaguar XJ220, the Ferrari F50, and even the mighty McLaren F1. Saleen took inspiration from many 1990s supercars and saw that mid-engine rear-wheel drive layout and race breed DNA. Saleen began working on a car on a computer screen from scratch. The S7 was conceived by Steve Saleen and designed by Phil Frank with help of Saleen as they worked with very special contractors to develop the car. Contractors like Lola, Brambro, etc. It only took Saleen an impressive 18 months of serious 3D modeling time and development. What resulted was the Saleen S7, which was unveiled to the public in August 2000 at the Monterey Historic Races in California. It was a huge testament to how efficient the company was and still is. With that being said, Steve Saleen said that the motivation behind the S7 was to go after pure performance. The car was designed to be competitive against the best of the best, both on the streets and the racetrack. The Saleen S7 shows that it was born to be a race car and one of the most interesting cars to come out of the United States of America. It was very wide and long, the most powerful and fastest American exotic supercar ever built, and the first purely American mid-engined supercar. It was street legal and very technologically advanced. Mr. Saleen himself built the S7 to prove that he is more than a guy who makes tuned up Ford vehicles and dreamed about it, to build it, and helped with the design and engineering of the car. This car gave Saleen credentials from Ford, with 2 contracts to engineer, develop, and assemble the rebirth of the 2004 Ford GT and to compete with it. It was a dream car of a generation Y and Z. This Saleen is so rare, considering under 100 of them were ever made, that you only see this feature in racing games like Forza, Gran Turismo, and Midnight Club series. As someone who plays a ton of racing games, this is one of the cars that is a childhood classic. The S7 was built with a race breed chassis embodied in lightweight steel and an aluminum honeycomb composite, making it extremely light and strong. Speaking of lightweight and strong, the car was made entirely from carbon fiber, yet it was stupidly 6.5 feet wide and 15.5 feet long, roughly wide and long as an executive sedan that you see on the streets every day. Yet it was beautiful and a big boy weighing 2,750 pounds. The Saleen S7 had a very complex and functional design. There are 60 gills all over the car, and they weren't just there for the looks, yet gave the car an aggressive design appearance. Every one of those gills was very fully functional to send air over, around, and under the car for the car to perform the way it does, both creating downforce and cooling. All of this work resulted in the S7 being able to produce its weight and downforce while doing 160 miles per hour. Theoretically, because the aerodynamic design was so effective, the car can drive upside down in the tunnel while sustaining grip. It was very aerodynamically advanced. Underneath the long deck lid was a ridiculous big V8 engine derived from Ford. Saleen's relationship with Ford goes way back, so it's no wonder the S7 is powered by a specially modified Ford Windsor 351 cubic inch engine. Saleen's race engineer Bill Talley bored and stroked the motor to 7 liters, hence the 7 and the S7 name stood for, and much like the Corvette C6Z06 had what was a 7-liter naturally aspirated V8 with an aluminum and block design. The result was a whopping 550 horsepower and 525 pound-feet of torque with a red line of 6,500 RPM through a 6-speed manual gearbox and all the power sent to the back wheels. European manufacturers like Ferrari saw the Saleen S7 as the greatest threat since the Ford GT40. It was competitive in every damn aspect. Power-wise was tied with the Lamborghini Diablo, and the S7 was cheaper than any of the competition and stupid fast. The 550 horsepower car can hit 0 to 60 in 3.3 seconds, with a top speed of 220 miles per hour. That's just as fast as the Ferrari Enzo, and not to mention the S7 would have topped the McLaren P1 and LaFerrari over 20 years ago. Just imagine. Then after seeing supercars like the Ferrari Enzo, Porsche Carrera GT, and the Maserati MC12 storm onto the scene by the mid-2000s, Saleen decided that in 2005 he upped the S7's game the way only a true tuner and gearhead would've. He installed a set of twin Garrett turbochargers, giving the car name the S7 Twin Turbo, pumping out 5.5 max PSI and boosting the 7-liter engine to 750 horses and 700 pound-feet of torque. It then went several steps ahead and crushed its competitors with a 0 to 60 mile per hour run in 2.8 seconds with a top speed of 248 miles per hour, and it almost beat the world speed record breaker Bugatti Veyron 16.4 in 2005. It was scary fast and reliable at the same time. That said, making it the second fastest production car on the planet at that time. This rare mid-engine supercar was able to somehow beat Ferrari on their own racetrack and looked good, cheaper, and reliable doing it. It was a world beater and all about performance and style. When the Saleen S7 was launched in 2000, they offered the car at 400 grand, which isn't exactly cheap, but for a supercar, it wasn't that expensive either. While the later S7 Twin Turbo started at $555,000. Today, the S7 seems to be headed in the direction of becoming a classic, with prices uprising. Saleen points out that their car had more power and cost $100,000 less than the Ferrari Enzo and $300,000 less than the Maserati MC12. So from that perspective, the S7 flagship car was a relative bargain for some. There is something special about the interior despite being basic takes inspiration from the McLaren F1. It adopted a similar ideology to the driver's seat, placed slightly to the center for a better weight ratio and visibility. The car had plenty of leather and aluminum accents everywhere, but no airbags, ABS, or even stability control was installed. So it wasn't the safest car around, but a relentless driver's car. The S7 was also one of the most practical supercars, having 2 trunks for storage space thanks to the mid-engine layout, plus it had a 40 by 60 front-rear weight balance. Saleen didn't care about luxury. It had an infotainment center and a very useful reverse camera, a flat-bottom steering wheel, 3 white gauge clusters, and a manual stick shift. Oh, and we can't forget about the eye-catching butterfly doors that makes it a supercar. The production run of the Saleen S7 began in 2000 and ended in 2009, while the production numbers remained low, which is crazy because you can't expect too many cars from a hand-built business that had a limited run for 9 years. Since then, Saleen has moved on, but the world still remembers America's first supercar, with many memories that not many of these were ever built. As much as the S7 was a successful hypercar on the road, it had a great racing heritage as well. The street legal and racing models didn't differ very much in terms of style and power. The S7R race cars were built to compete in GT-style motorsports such as the American Le Mans Series, FIA GT Championship, and 24 Hours of Le Mans, and also prove they can win on some of the world's amazing racetracks and against the GT1 class of cars. Both the S7R and S7LM models were the most successful race cars that derived from a supercar. The car raced numerous times between 2001 and 2010. It competed in 32 races in its first season, got 27 pole positions, and won 19 GT1 races. It has been a winner from the start. Overall, the S7 competed in 235 races, earning 154 podiums total, and won 78 GT1 races. They raced all around the globe and won 10 manufacturer championships for Saleen. Ultimately, Saleen even managed to take the victory crown at the 24 Hours of Le Mans for the LMGT1 class in 2010, done by the French race team. 2010 was the year of the S7R retiring from the competition with a bang, fulfilling Saleen's dream of winning Le Mans for once. Isn't it crazy that this American supercar showed what it can really do in motorsports and earned the respect and attention it deserves? The Saleen S7 is the ultimate example of its brand performance and technology and is the winningest supercar of racing ever. Seriously, mid-engined cars were all the hype back in the 90s and 2000s, of course, but for some reason, the Saleen S7 wasn't that popular in the United States, or even compared to European supercars that were shaken by it. Yet the car is a beautiful design, very rare to look for, and one of the rarest mid-engine cars. You can count the number of mid-engine American sports cars on your fingertips right now, and there aren't as many as it is in Europe. That being said, as I said in the beginning of this video, the S7 just deserves more love, enthusiasm, and attention in the sports car world than you think, and is largely forgotten and forgiven by a lot of car and tuner heads. The S7 is now incredibly a collector's dream, and there are plenty of reasons why. Born to be a racer, a winner, a world beater, a dreamer's car, and an all-American. It has graced films in Hollywood, from the Jim Carrey movie Bruce Almighty to being spotted in an original movie Alvin and the Chipmunks. Childhood. And also graced the virtual world of racing games. So while Steve Saleen's legacy keeps working with Ford and Mustangs, his greatest creation will always be his very own car. While tuning and modifying cars is cool, Saleen showed the automotive world why they should take his advice. And the S7 is the prime example of proof that Mr. Saleen is capable of building a dumb fast car from the ground up. This video essay truly describes here's what everyone forgot about the Saleen S7 supercar, which in return wraps up this video. I hope you all did really enjoyed the history of the Saleen S7 supercar, and if you did, do not forget to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you really did enjoy this video. And we are very close to hitting 1,000 subscribers, and I'm trying to hit 1,000 subscribers before this year is out. As I say every video, you are more than happy to give me any car suggestions in the comments down below, and I did not forget any of them whatsoever. Now time to shut up and listen to the S7 street car and the race car sound. Make sure to adjust your headphone volume for headphone users and enjoy the cars' soundtrack. Peace out, stay safe, Chris the Radar, out.